while we were waiting a little bit longer, uh, a few, maybe like an hour or so later, they come around and say, Operation Katya, and I'm like, okay, now fucking what? And someone says, me ECG karanda thiyena. Okay, let's go do that. So like the entire batch for the next day's operation batch get off our beds, follow this guy down to another ward where they have the ECG kind of unit set up, and that was a separate experience altogether again. uh, because while we were there, uh, it has to be the fastest ECG test I've seen in my fucking life, because people are just walking in and out, in, out, in, out, in, out, and I was thinking, I'm sure it takes a little bit longer than that to fucking, do your little gadgets, run the machine, get the readout, all that kind of stuff. But these people are just like fucking walking in and out, right? Bang, 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 bang. I was like, okay, maybe they're doing something else. And then there's one guy who was with us who was in a decent amount of pain, so he couldn't walk properly or walk fast for that matter. And these nurses are like, and all that kind of shit, asking him to take his shirt off and like screaming at the bugger saying, madam, all that bullshit. Okay. And that bugger got pissed off because obviously he couldn't move fast enough and he was in some pain and he was not having it, right? I think okay, he was like, oh, but the minister patient love me, he fucking let them have it, right? So there were two nurses in that room with the one main lady who was operating the machine, and of course they would take her side, and then you can hear them saying, "Dannadda me ikmanna karanna ඕනි කියලා me madam te යන්න තියෙනවා යාගේ shift එක ඉවරයි." Something, and he was like saying that how she had to go, and that's why they were doing it so fast, right? And then suddenly everything fucking calmed down after this bug had a go at them saying, "What the fuck are you all doing?" Then shit calmed down. Then we all said, and we were like, oh, sitting down again. So you had to like get ready, like take your fucking slippers off, get your shirt off, and just wait there till they call you in. So I get called in and go in. Nagin got on the bed. And they're like doing this so fucking fast. There's like 5 different little things you put around the chest and all that, the finger and all that kind of shit. And they're like pata 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 all on. And I can hear them talking. ඒගොල්ලොත් කියනවා මේ ජෙනරල් හොස්පිටල් එකෙත් කියනවා මේ අපි තරම් ඉක්මනට කවුරුත් ECG කරන්නේ නැහැ කියලා. ඒගොල්ලන් දන්නේ නැහැ අපි කොහොමද වැඩ කරන්නේ කියලා මෙතන. I'm thinking, I don't know if that's something to be proud of, because I think you're supposed to get it right, then do it fast. Well, that's what I think anyway. So they were all like, oh, like blowing steam up this bloody main women's ass, saying, they're also very proud of, and they can't believe how well we and how fast we do these things. I'm thinking, that's not something to be fucking proud of. Get that shit right, ideally. And I hope it was right. I don't know. Fucking, I got the cola cal, the graph on it, and I took it and said, oh, water. Then I said, oh, okay. Then all of us got back into a little row of ducks and walked back into a ward and handed the papers over. And that was a little ECG experience while I was there. So this one day where they do all these tests is quite eventful. And I thought I was going to be like sitting in bed and scratching my balls the whole day, wondering like what to do with myself. But instead, we had like all kinds of things going on. And the next one that came up was actually the PCR test. So mid-afternoon, I think I was like sleeping or some shit like that. One of the young doctors comes along. He's generally in the ward. There's a girl doctor and a guy doctor throughout the day in there. Comes along with a nurse with a little trolley. Got this whole PCR little test kits in it. Wakes me up and says, in the gun. I'm like, I was like, oh fuck. PCR test. It's gonna poke the shit up my nose. I'm like, oh, okay. So then, okay, fuck it. Has to get done, right? So, okay, sit up. He comes over, pokes it, all that, poke it up my nose, give it a little wiggle for good measure, pulls it out. And I was like, oh, that's... To be fair, anyone who's wondering about this fucking PCR test, it is not actually painful. It's just uncomfortable. because you've never had something so far up your fucking nose. So it's like weird and uncomfortable. It's a little stingy because they kind of do a little twist while it's in there, just for like for good measure before they take it out. So he does that, pulls it out, and then he gets someone speaks to him or some shit happens, and then he starts walking around the ward with this thing in his hand like an old toothbrush, right? I'm thinking, uh, aren't you supposed to put that into like a little gadget, seal it, put my fucking name on it, and keep it secure, right? Keep it hygienically sealed, whatever the fuck you want to call it. But no, I'm watching him. The nurse is here, and he's holding my fucking PCR test in his hand like an old toothbrush, and walking around the ward. I'm like, you're gonna be capturing all kinds of unnecessary shit also on that damn thing before it goes for a test, right? And I never saw him putting it back into a little whatever to seal it and send it off for a test. And I don't think he even came back for the next guys. I don't think he did all of them either. I'm not even sure. I lost track of the bugger. I don't know what happened to him after that. So anyway, the next day when we actually had to go and do the op, I'm jumping ahead a little bit. Do the op, when they went through my paperwork, they're like, okay, antigen PCR report. And they're looking at me, I'm like, I don't fucking know. I don't get the fucking results back. So I'm like, mandana test එක කරා ඊයේ නැත්තම් I don't fucking know. They're like, Harrier, then there's a big discussion about that. So that's anyway, a little later. Right now was PCR test time. And that's how my fucking PCR test went. So at the moment, my antigen was negative. I have no idea what happened to my PCR test. I didn't see a report. No one came and said, your PCR got clear. Or I don't know. So I'm gonna assume that if I had COVID, or if I do have COVID, either the test wasn't done properly, maybe it ended up in a fucking bin somewhere because he didn't remember who he took it out of, possibly, or I'm negative. So no one's come looking for me saying, oh, okay, PCR test was positive, so let's go to the fucking concentration camp here. So I'm assuming it was okay. So that's what I'm going with right now. But at least the antigen is not fucking accurate. I spoke to a doctor, cousin of mine, who said antigen is not 100% accurate. It tests for different things. Okay, so that was an interesting one. But again, let me just say, if you need to go and do a PCR test, go and fucking do it. Don't be afraid of it. It's just uncomfortable. It's not painful. But if you do it multiple times, apparently it's painful because I think it bruises the inside of your fucking nostril. So if you do it too many times, it's gonna hurt. Apparently, I don't know. I did it once, so I don't know yet. So it's for you to find out. But if you're afraid of doing it and haven't done it yet, and if you feel that you should do it, I would say just go and do it. It's just uncomfortable only. And within like an hour, that little stingy feeling you have is gone, and you've forgotten that you haven't fucking taken the damn thing. So go do it if you feel you should. So the next story. Again, I'm getting all this information from the believer who's right next to me. Oh, sorry, I call him the believer because at the beginning of our little friendship, he asked me like which faith I was from. And I told him that I don't believe in anything. I told him that I don't believe in gods and higher powers and all that kind of stuff. And then he gave me this look like, hmm? And I was like, oh, fuck. I was expecting that to come back at me at some point, but I think we were just too new in our relationship for him to kind of jump in and start trying to convert me or show me the error of my ways. So he kind of held it back, didn't say anything. He just said, okay, and just kept quiet. Of course, this came back to we came back to that topic a little later in the evening when we had like fuck all to do. It was like maybe 6-7 in the evening. Then he kind of wanted to kind of talk about it a little bit, tell me his experience. So I'll tell you about that as we go along. So that's why I call him the believer, and he is a hardcore fucking believer. Uh, so, like I said before, he's the one who does real walk around, talk to people, find out what happened to him and him and stuff. So he comes and tells me about the guy I spoke about before who had this humongous fucking cast on his arm. Apparently, this is a bit I got. See, there was some court case that happened between some what do you call it, a union and some set of other people, and one set lost. So this guy in the cast who's in the hospital is from the side that won, right? So when they were leaving some meeting or some shit like that in the evening, him and two other guys, three young people had turned up and fucking wanted to let them have it, right? They brought fucking poles and all kinds of shit and started attacking these guys, right? The shit that goes on, right? So the two guys who were with him, because this guy got hit on the head. First thing that happened, he got hit on the fucking head with a pole, so he had a big plaster on his head. And then when that happened, the other two buggers fled. So this bugger was alone trying to fend off three of these guys. So they kept, hitting the bugger. First was on his left arm, so he had a bit of a wound on this side, was bandaged up. And then blocked with the other arm, which was his right, which is the one that is mostly damaged. And then through that fight, he had eventually managed to get hold of one of those fucking sticks, whack some of those buggers where they fucking fled, and then realized that his arm was fucking cut, right? Because one of those blows had come from a fucking sword. So, I don't know how bad that fucking hit was, because that arm was this fucking big in that cast. It must have been one hell of a fucking cut, because I think that buggy is in a bad fucking state. So he's in hospital with a fucking kadupara on his fucking arm and a thundering fucking cast. But luckily for him, he fucking survived that shit. He could have died. In that kind of situation, the buggers come at you with fucking poles and swords. I don't know what exactly the entire fucking story is, but that bug could have died. If he got hit in the fucking neck or head or some shit, he'd have been dead. Not in the fucking ward. He'd have been in the fucking morgue. But luckily for him, he fucking survived that shit. And he didn't realize he didn't realize that he was that badly hurt, because I think the adrenaline and the shock fucking kicks in, and he fought them off, the whole fight or flight thing. And it's only after everything kind of calmed down that he fucking realized that he was fucked. So that's his story. The guy with the thundering cast, that's what happened to him.